finally time. We are here. The big video. 2012 Avengers. The culmination of 4 films brought together 5 individuals, well, 6 if you're counting a couple other people, together for the very first time. We have never seen this before in any comic book related movie. This is something that has been huge. I waited for this for so long, and the time that I got to see it, it brought tears to my eyes. Why? Because it was so great. We saw all the big characters come together for the first time. So today, we are going to talk about none other than the Avengers. Marvel's The Avengers. The first time these hero movies came together and we saw some of the greatest comedy chops, we saw some of the greatest action, and we saw all the things that we grew up watching as cartoons, reading as comics on the big screen. So, I know you're ready. Let's go. Ooh, every time I see that part, goosebumps. So, let's do a quick recap. Number 1, Iron Man 1 and 2 came out, 2008, 2010. This was the very first Marvel Cinematic movie. We saw the very first inclinations of the team that will soon to be the Avengers. Next, Hulk. We saw the Incredible Hulk also in 2008. Not a great film as far as critic is concerned, but like I said, a very important part of the cinematic universe. Me personally, this is my favorite character of all time. Now, moving on. I know I said I was going to get a real Mjolnir. Still working on it. Anyway, Thor. Thor came out, super great hit, really brought us to the cosmic side of the universe. I can't wait to talk about more of that in the next few phases. But once again, Thor was a very good movie, very important to the plot. We also see the first hints of what will soon to be the plot device for this particular movie. Lastly, my man, Captain America, the first Avenger, the original Avenger. His movie, like I said, connected all the tissues together so that it could bring us what we're about to talk about today. So, now that I've gotten that out the way, let's begin. See this movie kick off in S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, in S.H.I.E.L.D., they're trying to tap into the power source of the Tesseract. While they're doing that, we see Dr. Selvig. Dr. Selvig was in Thor. We're seeing him trying to tap into what's going on and why the Tesseract is acting up. We also see Barton, or aka Hawkeye, who's watching the entire thing. We also find him in Thor. We're seeing him and our guy, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, stepping in, seeing what's going on, why is the Tesseract acting up. The Tesseract opens up a portal, and guess who steps out of that portal? Loki. We see Loki also in Thor. See why I'm telling you that Thor is very important? We see all the main characters in Thor in the very first scene. Now, Loki has a staff in his hand. He uses the staff to take over the minds of Selvig and Barton. Nick Fury tries to walk off with the Tesseract. He's unable to, he gets shot. They take the Tesseract and they get going. Now, a little bit of a scuffle happens. There's a meltdown at S.H.I.E.L.D., destroys that facility. Now, as he destroys that facility, Loki then gets away. Now, there's a part of the movie, a part of this scene, where, and another character that we've seen before, which is my man, Coulson. Now, Coulson steps in and he's asking Fury, what are we going to do now? And then Fury pauses, and the camera pans up, and then we see the big title crawl, The Avengers. Oh man, once we saw that, we knew we were going to be in for a treat. Now, we start to see the characters of the team. And now the first part of the movie is pretty much bringing the team together. We see Black Widow interrogating this guy, but she's tricking him to give her all the information that she needs to know. She is told by Coulson that Barton is compromised, you need to get the big guy, and that he's going to get started. So now we're seeing, like I said, we're seeing these characters going out to get the rest of the team. Black Widow finds herself in Calcutta, where she finds Bruce Banner, Dr. Bruce Banner, who's kind of hiding out, helping people because he's a doctor. He's trying to stay in a place where he won't transform into the Hulk. So Banner is lured away from what he's doing by a little girl. Little girl brings him to a shack, and that's when Natasha Romanoff steps in. Black Widow steps in to talk to him. They talk a little bit. He tests her to see where she's at, and then he willingly comes along with her because of the fact that they need him to find the Tesseract because it emits a low level of gamma radiation in which he will be able to track. Now, the next scene, we're going to see who else? Iron Man. Actually, no. Before we get to Iron Man, we do go back to Nick Fury, who goes and gets the soldier, the ultimate soldier, which is Captain America. So he starts acting Captain America about some stories about the Tesseract. Captain America pretty much said you should have left it in the ocean. Now, after saying that, we see Iron Man in the ocean. If you remember, there's a little bit of connection here because you see Howard Stark in the ocean fishing out the Tesseract. And we see his son, Tony Stark, putting together a module of some sort inside the ocean as Iron Man. He comes out, he goes back to his tower. Now, he's walking, Coulson breaks through all of Jarvis's protocols, and he pretty much gives him a little recruitment form or recruitment thing, showing him all the people that they're looking to get to bring forward in this team. But they're telling him that they need his help now, due to the fact that a hostile force from another world took the Tesseract, and now he's looking to start a war. So, we're gonna fast forward a little bit. The team is finally together, and they're finally on the same boat. And this is where we first see Bruce Banner and Steven Rogers shake hands. Now, Bruce Banner was trying to replicate the serum that made Steven Rogers who he is, Captain America, but his effect was slightly off and it turned him into the Hulk. So they're pretty much the same type of character. One is always strong with all of his mindset. The other one continues to be stronger and stronger and stronger the matter he gets, and he doesn't have his mindset. So I love the way that they had a little interaction there. Now we get inside and we're trying to figure out how we are going to find Loki, how we're going to find the Tesseract. And then, lo and behold, Loki shows himself. They send Captain America to go get Loki. Loki fights him off a little bit. Then Iron Man joins the fight. Loki stands down. On their way back, now we're going to see the next member of the Avengers introduced, which is Thor. Thor jumps on this plane, not helicarrier, but jumps on this plane. He ends up jumping in, breaking in, grabbing Loki by the neck, leaving off with him. Iron Man automatically doesn't want to hear any questions, doesn't want to get any answer. He says in the movie, which I love, I do have a plan, attack, and he goes and attacks. Then Captain America straps up a parachute, leaps out as well. But before he leaps out, he also says something that brings you back to the type of person that he is. He is realistic. So when Black Widow says, I better sit this one out, Cap, they're basically gods. He says, there's only one God, man, and I bet you he doesn't dress like that. Man, that goes back to his wholesomeness back in the 1940s. I love it. Anyway, we're now down at this mountain ridge where Thor and Loki are having a conversation. Thor thinking that Loki's dead, he finds out Loki's not dead, and then they have a little back and forth as brothers. A beautiful callback to what we saw in Thor. Now, we're getting closer to this fight. So as they're talking and everything like that, Iron Man swoops out of nowhere, hits Thor. Thor and Iron Man are going at it. Cool, right? Awesome, wasn't it? Now, we saw a fight between Thor and Iron Man. We wanted to see, in our minds, who's stronger, the Iron Man suit or Thor's raw natural powers. And we saw very clear Thor was getting the better hand of Iron Man. However, there were some times that Iron Man had some great shots to throw back at Thor. Then we see another question answered, which weapon is stronger? The shield of Captain America or Thor's hammer Mjolnir? So, what do we see? A collision. And what do we see? Nothing. The shield absorbed all of the energy that the hammer came down with, and it blew both of them away. So at the end of it, they looked around and they said, hey, are we done here? Awesome. So we got all the questions that we had answered as far as who is who's stronger than what, and we see all the characters but one. But not to fear, we're getting to that. We get back onto the helicarrier with Loki. Loki's prime objective is to release the Hulk, and Black Widow does a great job in manipulating Loki into spilling that. So, as they're having this conversation, and I probably should mention this, which I should have mentioned before, but I didn't, so well. Nick Fury and Loki have a banter going on in the beginning, where Loki pretty much says an ant doesn't have a quarrel with a boot. So, Nick Fury sticks him into this bolt, where it was really built for the Hulk, and the bolt sends him straight down into an iron shaft into the ground, from wherever they're flying from. So he gives a nice little shot back. Ant. It's pretty cool, pretty funny. Anyway, a little bit of stuff goes back and forth, and we see Loki's staff in the middle of the Avengers arguing. And at first, we don't really notice what's going on because we do see the staff, and at the time, we didn't know what the staff was. But in the next movie, the next Avengers movie, we're going to get a better idea of what the staff was the entire time. I'm not going to talk about it now. I'm going to talk about it then. So, we see the staff acting up. We see everybody arguing, and then pretty much Hawkeye gets close enough to the helicarrier, blows out one of the turbines. Everybody is blown into different directions during this banter, and we also see some more fruits of what's going to happen later down the road. Before that explosion, we see Iron Man and Captain America going back and forth, trying to one up each other. And it looked like that they were going to get to a fist fight. So now they come together and say, all right, let's work together so we can not fall out of the sky. During this whole entire time, you see Bruce Banner trying to fight off the Hulk emerging. And then Black Widow messes up and she says, Bruce, I will get you out of here. You will survive with your life. And then he gets crazy. She also says it again, Bruce. And one thing about the Hulk, if you're the Hulk and you hear the word Bruce, puny Banner, he goes crazy. And that's exactly what happened. He goes crazy, he transforms into the Hulk, and then, my goodness, he tries to take out Black Widow. So, we're seeing different scenes of what's going on. There's a lot going on in this scene because Hawkeye and his crew is trying to break in to free Loki and also take down the helicarrier. Meanwhile, they're trying to get hold of back his staff. They're trying to put discontentment between the team, and all this stuff is happening one by one. Now, I'm going to be skipping ahead a little bit. Hulk is about to knock the heck out of Black Widow, and then Thor comes in. So now we see another fight that we've always wanted to see on the big screen. Thor versus Hulk. So Thor and Hulk are going at it. They're fighting. And Mjolnir, Thor throws Mjolnir at Hulk. Hulk catches it in midair. It hits the ground. Man, I wanted to see if they were really going to go for this. So they're showing the Hulk trying to pick up the hammer. He's breaking into the ground trying to pick up this hammer. He can't get it. Then Thor comes in, swoops in, takes the hammer, starts choking him out with it, and this fight is going on. During this whole time, Captain America and Iron Man are working together to free up the debris and get the turbine back up and running. We skip ahead. Now, we're seeing Hulk and Thor just tearing up the place. Hulk gets distracted by a jet fire that's outside firing bullets at him. He jumps over, tries to rip the guy apart, thing blows up, he blows away. Thor then finds Loki, tries to stop Loki from coming out of this cage. It was an illusion, another callback to the Thor movie. He falls into the cage goes through the shaft, and then that's the end of him. Now, man, we're so much going on. So the two heavy hitters are now gone, which is Thor and Hulk. I want you to remember that for the next movie. Actually, no, not for the next movie. Just remember that, okay? Good. So, Coulson steps in, and then Coulson gets hit from the back by the real Loki. There's several illusions of Loki. He gets hit in the back. And then during this whole entire time, they have a small little back and forth, and then he blasts him with this gun that looks like the destroyer that was sent from the Thor movie. And that's pretty much it. Everybody gets away. Coulson is dead, well, allegedly. Now the team is broken up and everybody's kind of scattered all over the place. They don't know what to do now because everything that they were supposed to be shown as though they're not that at all. They get another trigger that the Tesseract is now closer than what they think. The Tesseract is in New York. um, Captain America and Iron Man has a little back and forth, and then Iron Man figures out where Loki is going to put this the Tesseract in order to open this beam into space. So they head over to New York. The entire team, whoever's left. I didn't speak about this either. While all this was going on, Hawkeye was, under the mind control of Loki. Then him and Black Widow get into it. Black Widow busts him up, knocks him in the head, and he's getting shaken out of whatever mind control he has. He's back on the team. So pretty much they're on their way to New York. Iron Man gets to his tower first, has this back and forth with Loki, and then Loki throws him out the window. His next suit comes out. We're gonna say it's probably Mark 5, maybe Mark 6, who knows. Anyway, it comes out, Iron Man's here, and then as soon as Iron Man appears, the portal opens up, the Chitauri comes through. I should have mentioned that before, the Chitauri. So, they come through. Now, Iron Man's the only one on site, so Iron Man is fighting off all of these aliens. Then the rest of the team comes in. So little by little, you see the team trying to take out as much as they can. They come back together and they pretty much get to the point where they have to get as a team. And then, lo and behold, who rolls up? My man, Bruce Banner. Bruce Banner comes around and says, man, this is horrible. So then we're seeing all this happening. And then Iron Man comes around with this big Chitauri worm flying thing. I don't know what to call it, but he comes around the bend. They're seeing this thing happening. And then my man, Bruce Banner, walks over to him. And then Captain says the words, Banner, maybe it's a good time for you to get angry. And then, my man says, Bruce Banner turns around and says, that's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry. Watch. One more time. Last time, I promise. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, but to me, that was the best transformation of the Hulk I have ever seen. Up until now, we have never seen the Hulk transform so perfectly. It's like, oh my goodness, it was perfect. Anyway, the team is here. Captain America starts giving out orders, and then we see a montage of different team members in different areas. We see Thor and Hulk working together. We see Captain America and Iron Man working together. I want you to remember these pairings. Captain America together, Thor and Hulk together. Remember those pairings. Anyway, we're seeing all this happen, and now Loki decides to jump into the fight after he mixes up with Thor a little bit further back. But now we're seeing all these team members working together, and this whole entire part of the movie was just spectacular. We're seeing everything that we've ever wanted to see. We're seeing all the team ups that we always wanted to see. Now it's getting to the point where there's more alien forces coming out, and there's only 6 of these guys. So we really can't fight off all of these characters. Now we're starting to realize that, well, Black Widow is starting to realize that we're gonna need to do something else. So she hitches a ride on one of these aliens, gets all the way to the top, see Eric Selvig, and Eric Selvig pretty much says, I built in a safety and I'm looking right at it. So, pretty much, Black Widow gets there, gets the staff. Meanwhile, there is a nuke heading directly towards Manhattan because Nick Fury couldn't talk to his officials and persuade them not to send any type of nuke over to New York City until he realizes that the Avengers can isolate the situation, but they don't trust him, so they send it anyway. Iron Man grabs the nuke. Iron Man goes right up into the wormhole with the nuke. He sends the nuke into the mother spaceship, knocks out the spaceship, destroys all the characters or all the aliens that are on Earth. And as he's falling down, Black Widow takes out the Tesseract beam. The beam stops, the wormhole is closing. Somehow Iron Man falls through. Now Iron Man is falling and falling and falling, and out of nowhere, once again, my man, I'm gonna try to reenact it. That's basically what happened. My man just caught him in mid-air, and that was it. We see the two of them in the air, falling to the ground. Hulk throws Iron Man off of him. He's looking at Iron Man. Everybody's looking at Iron Man, trying to wake him up. Hulk yells at him, and then in his roar, man, I just love the Hulk. I don't know, I have a man crush on the Hulk. That's probably not a good thing. Anyway, so we get back to Stark Tower where Loki wakes up. And oh man, I didn't even talk about that part. You know what? I'll just show it. So we see Loki wake up and he's confronted by the entire Avengers crew. And pretty much he knows that he lost. At the end, Thor and Loki goes back to Asgard with the Tesseract. Loki's staff is still on Earth. Remember that. They go back to Asgard. Thor, yeah, like I said, Thor and Loki back to Asgard. Tony, Captain America, they shake hands, go their separate ways. Hulk and Iron Man hop into was it an Acura? I don't remember the car, but they pull off. And then of course Barton and Black Widow, they go their separate way back to S.H.I.E.L.D. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Now, all these characters are in different locations, and of course, when it's time for them to assemble, they will assemble. Now, we get through the entire credits, not the entire credits, we get to the after credit scene. Now, the after credit scene is for us, the geeks like us who, and I'll keep it real. When I saw the character, after the, I forget his name, I think his name is No Name, or the Unknown, something like that. Anyway, he's pretty much saying, to challenge the meager might of Earth, you must court death. And then my man stands up, and you see the side of his face. Now at the time, I'm not gonna lie to you, I thought that was Super Skrull at first, because he got the same type of chin. But then I looked at it, I was like, wait, Super Skrull is green, this guy's purple. And if I'm not mistaken, this has to be Thanos. So, sure enough, I went back and did my little research. This is back in 2012. And sure enough, that was Thanos. So we saw the very first visual look at Thanos. And Thanos is the villain of the MCU universe. I know all these movies that we've already covered had several villains. We had Ironmonger, we had Abomination, we had Whiplash, we had Loki, aka the Destroyer / the Destroyer, we had Red Skull. Out of those 5, the main villain was Thanos. Now, we're going to see that Thanos doesn't have a big role in all of these movies, but we're going to notice that he's playing an intricate game, and all of these people in this game are pawns. And once again, the villains in Marvel are lackluster, some of them are really great, but we're missing the point that the main villain, the head boss, is Thanos. Imagine you playing a video game. You have to beat a bunch of like low-level bosses before you get to the main boss, which is at the main level, the final level. That is Thanos. So, we see that. Oh, man, I'm tired. Anyway, I love this movie. This movie is one of the greatest movies of all time. I'm going to list all of my favorite MCU movies once we're done. Once we get all the way to the most current movie. Right now we're in 2017. The current movie that I'm hoping that I can get this done by should be Ragnarok. So, I'm going to give you my listings. Once I see Ragnarok, I'm going to give you my listings. But right now, hands down, the Avengers is always going to be #1. And the reason for that is because this movie brought to me the first time ever seeing all the characters that I grew up watching on cartoons, reading as comic book, playing with toys. I'm seeing all these characters for the very first time, and it is spectacular. It was glorious. I loved it. So, take the time, rewatch this movie. If you haven't watched it already, watch it, indulge in it. I would suggest you start with Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America. Once you watch all those 5 films and you get to that 6th film, which is the Avengers, everything will make total sense. And if you choose not to do any of that, you just choose to watch Avengers, the Avengers, the movie, did a really good job explaining who all these characters were. And that's pretty much it. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and of course, can't forget my man, Nick Fury. That's it. Now, this concludes phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Stay tuned for phase 2, where we're going to get into more comic book movies. We are going to get into more of the comics. We're going to get into more of the characters as well. We're also going to be introduced to brand new characters and brand new teams. Can't wait to talk about that. Can't wait to get into that. So, for right now, keep in mind the Tesseract, which is the Space Stone, and Loki's staff. I'm not going to tell you what's going on with Loki's staff until the time is right. Anyway, this was C Sam's. Like, share, subscribe, do whatever you want to do. I know this is kind of late because this is 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. This is important. You guys should be paying attention to this, and I want to get you guys ready for the big blockbuster event, May 2018, Avengers Infinity War. Once again, this is your boy C Sam's. Sam's out.